Did you know the greatest NHL season of all time saw Wayne Gretzky put up his lowest point total in over a decade? And that the league's other marquee name, Mario Lemieux, was sidelined mid-season after a shocking Hodgkin's lymphoma diagnosis? And yet, that same season was completely chaotic and absolutely brilliant. Records were shattered. New legends were born. The league exploded with offense like never before and never again. This is the story of the most electric, unpredictable, and unforgettable season the NHL has ever seen. Welcome to the 1992-93 NHL season. This period of NHL history was full of change on every level. With hockey lagging behind the other major American sports, the league was desperate to inject new life into the product. After the San Jose Sharks were added ahead of the 1991-92 season, the NHL expanded again to 24 teams in 1992, welcoming the Tampa Bay Lightning and Ottawa Senators. For the first time ever, the league also added a commissioner, Gary Bettman, who still holds the job today. He came in with a bold vision and a bigger front office staff to help execute it. And he inherited the perfect showcase, because right as he took over, the NHL was in the middle of one of the most electrifying seasons it had ever seen. A season you just couldn't take your eyes off. Everybody loves a bit of drama, and hockey fans in 1992 certainly got a bit of that when the Lindros saga took over the headlines in the offseason. The young Canadian had been selected first overall by the Quebec Nordiques in 1991, which was a curious decision by the team, considering that Lindros had made it very clear that he would never play for the Nordiques because of their ownership. They selected him anyway. And, would you believe it, Lindros did indeed refuse to play. It was a messy saga that would end with him being traded to the Philadelphia Flyers ahead of the 1992 season for an almighty haul that included Steve DeChesney, Ron Hextall, Kerry Huffman, Mike Ritchie, the rights to Peter Forsberg, the Flyers' first-round picks in 1992 and 1993, and $15 million. Did you get all that? It was a monster trade, and one that worked out well for both teams. Lindros did indeed become a superstar, while the Nordiques, soon to be known as the Colorado Avalanche, would go on to win the Stanley Cup in 1996 and again in 2001, aided by the immense collection of assets they got for trading away Lindros. In his first season with the Flyers, Lindros played in 61 games, scoring 41 goals and 75 points. It was a solid start for the rookie, but it didn't come close to the output of another rookie that year. Temu Time made his fans wait to find out what he could do. He was taken 10th overall in the 1988 draft, but returned to Finland to complete his military service. 4 years later, he was ready to take to the ice for the Winnipeg Jets, and it didn't take long for him to prove that his talents were going to transfer to the NHL very well. His first goal came in just his second outing, and by game number 5, he was scoring his first hat trick. There was no ramp-up period needed for this guy, who shattered multiple rookie records, showing off his iconic celebration in the process, in which he pretended to shoot his glove out of the air. His rookie record of 76 goals was 23 higher than the previous record of 53 set by Mike Bossy 15 years earlier. And, coincidentally, his 132 points were also 23 higher than the previous best of 109 set by Peter Stastny. Solani completely destroyed the rookie record books that year, and his outrageous totals are looking pretty unbeatable, having now stood for over 3 decades. Fans couldn't believe what they were witnessing, but Solani's epic outlier performance was just one part of an overall outlier of a season. 7,311 goals were scored over the 1992-93 campaign, equating to 7.25 goals per game. That made it the highest scoring regular season in NHL history at the time, with 20 of the 24 teams scoring 3 goals or more per game. Obviously, Solani was responsible for a good chunk of them, but who else got stuck in? Well, just about everyone. Let's start with the slightly more obvious names. Mario Lemieux, Super Mario. He was already well established as one of the stars of the league at this point, but nobody was prepared for what happened in 1992-93. He started the season on fire, scoring points in each of his first 12 games, contributing to an outrageous total of 101 points by the turn of the year in just 38 games. This was Gretzky-level scoring, and the Great One's record was looking vulnerable. But then, disaster struck. The 27-year-old Lemieux was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, a form of cancer. Just like that, Lemieux's life was turned on its head, from one day eyeing up records to the next day having to prepare for a long, arduous treatment process. But as everyone had come to expect from this iconic superstar, Super Mario still managed to blow people away. He underwent 2 months of intense radiation treatment, and just like he was accustomed to doing on the ice, he won. He beat cancer and then came straight back. On the day of his final treatment, he literally jumped on a plane to Philadelphia, suited up that night against a heated rival, and put up a goal and an assist. Such was the admiration for this great player and this great story that Lemieux received a standing ovation when he took to the ice, something that would normally be unthinkable for a Pittsburgh player. Buoyed by his return, the Penguins would go on to post an NHL record 17-game win streak, which ultimately helped them win the President's Trophy. On top of that, their 119 points are still a franchise record, aided massively, of course, by Super Mario's simply remarkable 160 points in just 60 games. This won him his second Hart Memorial Trophy and his 4th overall scoring title, winning the award by 12 points, despite playing in 24 fewer games than the next best. Lemieux did not take the top spot when it came to goal scoring, though. As we have already discussed, Temu Solani led Mario in that category with his 76, which is still tied for the 5th most in a single season in NHL history. But amazingly, one of those players he is tied with hit that total in the very same year. That's right, the 1992-93 season was the first in NHL history to have 2 players break the 70-goal plateau. Amazingly, no player has recorded at least 70 goals in a season since. That is over 3 decades. Anyway, the player joining Solani beyond the 70-goal mark in 1992-93 was Alexander Mogilny, who tied the Finnish Flash on 76. He had shown signs of potential as a Buffalo Sabre, but had only managed a career high of 39 goals up to this point. Still, a solid number for sure, but nothing like the 76 that he would rack up in just 77 games in 1992-93. Unstoppable is the word that comes to mind. On December 23rd, he scored a hat trick. A few days later, he got on the score sheet twice more. Then, over the next 2 games, how about 2 more hat tricks? It was a relentless scoring effort by the Russian, contributing to 7 hat tricks over the entire season and 2 performances with 4 goals. That is how he ended up becoming the first player developed outside of North America to lead the NHL in goals. His 76 goals came from 7 fewer games than Solani's 84, emphasizing just how incredible his effort was. Everyone truly found their best form during this incredible 1992-93 season. Mogilny's Buffalo teammate Pat LaFontaine hit his career-high 148 points, and Adam Oates did the same with his 142 points. The scoring was off the charts, with so many Hall of Famers delivering their best statistical output in this offensive explosion. Amazingly, the only person who didn't get stuck in was Wayne Gretzky, who was sidelined for much of the year with a back injury. He could only muster up 65 points due to this injury, ending a record 13-year streak of 100-point seasons. Of course, when the time came, he still showed up well in the playoffs. Before we get to that, though, we have to wrap up this insane regular season. By year's end, 21 players had recorded 100 or more points, and 14 players had reached the 50-goal plateau. Both of those records still stand today. The poor goalies were put through the ringer all season long, but even some of them had an enjoyable moment in the limelight. Jeff Reese, for example, set an NHL record for assists by a goalie in a single game, with 3 of them. But look, it can't all be good news. If there are so many people firing home record point totals, somebody has to be on the receiving end. Unfortunately, that brings us onto some of the NHL's newest franchises, who were not having such a good time. The Ottawa Senators actually managed to win their first NHL game in 58 years, but this would prove to be nothing more than false hope, as they proceeded to post a dreadful 10-70-4 record. They unfortunately have to be viewed as one of the worst teams in NHL history. But during this 1992-93 season, they were not alone. The San Jose Sharks, in just their second year, were equally useless, losing an NHL record 71 games. Unfortunately, the records didn't stop there either, with them at one point losing 17 in a row, which tied the record for the longest consecutive losing streak. Needless to say, it was a while before either of those two teams would be eyeing up playoff action. But for some of the sport's biggest names, the 1992-93 postseason offered up a chance to make history. The point scoring, cancer-surviving Mario Lemieux was hoping to lead his team to a three-peat. It would have been the perfect way to end his incredible, emotional season, and things were looking good when the Penguins easily defeated the New Jersey Devils in 5 games. But in the next round, the New York Islanders produced the upset, with David Volek delivering the killer blow with an iconic overtime winner. Of course, that wasn't the only surprise performance. 1992 Cup finalists, the Chicago Blackhawks, were swept by St. Louis, while Brad May's Mayday overtime goal helped Buffalo sweep Boston, producing one of the best ever broadcast calls. Gretzky, who had been sidelined for much of the regular season, was never going to go quietly. He helped his Los Angeles Kings defeat Calgary and Vancouver, both times as underdogs, to set up a conference final against the Toronto Maple Leafs. It was Toronto who looked set to take the series when they went up 3-2, only for one of the most controversial moments in NHL history to swing things in Los Angeles' favor. Gretzky's infamous high stick went unpunished, paving the way for him to score the winner before he then sent the Maple Leafs home with a hat trick in Game 7. Ouch. This booked Gretzky and his Kings a ticket to the Stanley Cup, and it was fitting that the Great One would be there, because this just so happened to be the 100th anniversary of the Stanley Cup. Waiting for them were the Montreal Canadiens, the winningest franchise in NHL history. Despite this, they were desperately in need of a title, having gone 6 straight seasons without one, normal for most, but a quiet spell for these Canadiens. It was the Kings who took Game 1, suggesting a magical 100th year anniversary for Gretzky. But in Game 2, the series flipped on its head. Montreal were just too good, eventually enjoying a 4-1 victory to win their 24th and final Stanley Cup. Don't think they had it easy though. During that playoff run, Montreal set an NHL playoff record for most overtime wins in one playoff, with 10, posting an overall record of 10-1 in overtime. And with that, the greatest season in NHL history was over. Records were shattered, legends were made, and the 100th anniversary of the Stanley Cup was celebrated in the most chaotic, unforgettable way possible. But what sticks with you the most from 1992-93? Solani's rookie explosion, Mario's comeback, Gretzky's run, or something else entirely? Let us know in the comments.